We are so stupid. All right. Hi, everybody. Rico under the weather. Big fella got taken out by something in the sinuses. So, in here. So, get better, buddy. Now, we have a lot to do today. No. We have a lot of business to take care of. So, Brad Holmes talked. And we took probably 3 pieces of audio. Guys, if you want all of it, Odyssey.com rewind. But I thought there were 3 really interesting things. But I want to center on the Jared Goff portion. Because listening to mornings, middays, I am often left aghast at the callers they receive. Now, we generally don't. Because unlike, for instance, Doug says, treat everybody with respect. We feature more things like this. So generally, the foofs and dum-dums don't call us. But there were a number of people who wanted to air grievances about Jared Goff. And I said, all right, well, we're going to try to do this in a different way. Now, I will play the audio for you. But I am going to present something because we talked about we're going to have a Jared Goff discussion. And I have some stats. And while I think people who mock or demean their quarterback are dumb, I also think people who think Goff is perfect are dumb. I have some interesting data and a question. But before any of that, I want to play this Brad Holmes audio. Okay? Rico, you ready? Got it. He was asked about, that drop is going to be big trouble for us. He was asked about Ben Johnson, Jared Goff. Here is the take on the franchise quarterback of your Detroit Lions. That's not just niceties. That is a full endorsement. And in fact, he's telling you, oh no, he just keeps getting better and better. And then you got to juxtapose it with some data. And look, I'm not telling you it's perfect, but you're coming off of a really, really, really bad game for Jared Goff. And it happened to be the last game of the season. And it's always going to be viewed with heavy recency bias. It's always going to be viewed with a heavier hand. But I wanted to present something so you guys can go where you want with it. But if you're not a Goff fan, well, here's some, blood in the water, if you will, okay? And I got to find this on my notes because, of course, it's a disaster, and I do apologize to everyone involved here. Jared Goff of quarterbacks who have started at least 5 playoff games. Here is where he ranks, and you can do what you want with this, but this is where the haters are going to have a bit of ammunition. He does have a losing record in the playoffs. Okay, so out of 17 quarterbacks that have started at least 5 playoff games that are active, he ranks 10th for a playoff record. He's 4-5. He ranks 14th in completion percentage. Now, this is a guy who completes generally the better part of 70% of his passes, 61% in the playoffs, 14th out of 17 quarterbacks. He ranks 12th in passing yards per game. Now, this is a guy that in the regular season can throw for damn near 5,000 yards. He ranks 13th in passing yards per attempt at a flat 7 yards. Way down from where he would be on his MVP basis. His TD to INT ratio ranks 12th among the 17 qualified quarterbacks. His passer rating ranks 15th among the 17 qualified quarterbacks. And turnovers put him at 10th. Sack rate, I'm a little leery of that, but if you want to say, hey, he holds on to it a little bit too long in the playoffs, fine, ranks 13th. So look, he's played 4 playoff games here of his 9. He's been good in 3 of them. He was really bad the other night. And there's no escaping it. So here's the question I want to ask you guys. I think you've had enough time. Well, I thought before listening to the other shows and the callers, I thought you'd had enough time to process where we could have a discussion today. I'm not so sure. Because some of the callers, it's just a baby with a placemat and applesauce, and it was a disaster today. Do you believe you can still win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff? Because your GM is saying, look, Yeah, Ben Johnson, whatever. This kid has worked in a different system. This guy's just entering his prime. This guy's getting better and better. Best is yet to come. And I'm not asking you to make fun of Brad Holmes. I'm asking you just to straighten away. Do you agree with your GM's words? That wasn't just him saying, no, we're very happy with our quarterback. I mean, he basically was making a case. No, our quarterback's not good. He's great. We're not happy. We're thrilled. And in fact, the best is yet to come after losing Ben Johnson. Do you agree with that stuff? And in the end, can you bring yourself that as we watch NFC and AFC Championship weekend, every quarterback remaining has something Jared Goff doesn't have? All jokes about mobile Goff season, they have wheels. Daniels, Hurts, Allen, Mahomes. They all got wheels. And a lot of people can't get over Jared Goff doesn't have that. Mobile Goff season. I mean, he can get you 4 yards, maybe. The point is, I do believe you can still win a Super Bowl with him. But I think it has to be a certain way. I think it's got to be a certain formula. I think that's why Brad Holmes, and we'll play this audio maybe on the bump back here at 2:15, I think that's why Brad Holmes talked about the offensive line. Did your offensive line play well Saturday night? No, they didn't. Despite 500 yards, they didn't play well. You know, like if TJ was sitting here, and I know, well, TJ's actually retired now. He's never coming on again because the Lions season is over. But basically, your interior third of the line dictates the depth of the pocket. Your tackles dictate the width. Well, your interior third got bullied a little bit the other night. And what can a guy who doesn't have great wheels not deal with? Pressure right up the middle. There's nothing to step up into. Goff under pressure is one of the better QBs in the league, but it's got to be a particular type of pressure. So, look, I think you can still win a Super Bowl with him. I think the reinvestment in the offensive line that is aging is going to be important. Obviously, if Mahogany is going to play the way he played the other night, that's probably your starting right guard next year. And you tell Kevin Zeitler, thank you, but goodbye. But I want to know from you guys, because listening all day, I was taken aback by the number of people, not saying, hey, Jared had a bad night, but I still believe in my quarterback. People saying, I want him out of here. People saying he can't win a Super Bowl. I want to know the why. Why do you feel that way? Is it because you're still hurting and you're in some strange phase of grief? Or do you actually believe you can't win a Super Bowl with this guy? Because we've reached a point in this town, there is nothing else. And I always use David's team as the example. You're going to get bored making the playoffs real quick if it doesn't result in anything. So if you don't believe you can win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff, you can say it. I'm not going to slander you. Where I get upset is where people go way overboard. But yes, are you going to need a really good offensive line and a really good run game? Absolutely. I can cop to that. But my counter to it is if you provide that and you have just an average defense, you can win a Super Bowl. He can do it. But the problem is he's got a couple of real playoff duds on the resume now. Just like Lamar Jackson. And they're having the same conversation. Look, if I were doing Baltimore radio, no, I don't believe you're winning a Super Bowl with Lamar. I don't. Especially when everybody wants a mobile QB, but the first thing that goes on a mobile QB is the mobility. Goff, I think it's a safer play. It's not about being better or worse. It's about, can a guy get this done, and can he present a high enough floor that I'm comfortable going into his mid-30s? Goff is that guy. And I do believe he's better than what he showed you. But if you want to call up and tell me, listen, in a big spot, I worry about him, I'm not mad at you, and that's why I wanted to get the data for you. That amongst his contemporaries, he's bottom 3-4 of the qualified quarterbacks. It's not a discussion about, well, of course he's not number 1 or 2. He's not Brady or Mahomes. I know that. But you can't be ranking 15th, 14th, 17th, 13th in a number of these critical categories. So I want to know if you still believe. And if you don't, I need a reason why. But please do not call up and talk about your Shedeur Sanders draft day scenarios. This is not the show for it. I'm just not doing it. David, what did I miss there? Talk to me. And Kenny. And I want to throw the number out. 248-539-9797. What did I miss there? And in any way am I being unfair to either side of this?
Oh, I don't think you missed anything. I don't think you're being unfair. I also agree. I do think you can win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff, but everything has to be right around him.
Mm-hmm.
The O-line, I think you need to have a better defense around him. Everything needs to be, because it's not going to be perfect, but it has to be set up. The building blocks have to be there. It's like when you're a kid and you have those blocks in your room. Everything has to be stacked up. The minute you move something, then he can't do it.
So let me ask you a question. If we took, you know how we always like to play the game, player A, player B? Or I'll use a phrase sometimes that's like, hey, take the logo off the helmet, right? How is what you said any different than what you would say about Lamar Jackson? That everything's got to be right. Everything's got to be tailored. Everything has to work together, right? So here's my point. I say it because David and I will always fight about Lamar. And whether you like a guy or I don't, the reality is there are very few quarterbacks, if any, that can do this when things aren't right. Now, if you want to say, well, Josh Allen, I'll say he's never been to a Super Bowl. I'll say he's winless against Mahomes. And part of beating that narrative, he's got to go out and win this weekend. But Josh Allen was built in a lab. He's 6'5", 240, and he runs like the wind. That's not who you drafted. And if you're searching for a Josh Allen, great. You're going to draft 10 Anthony Richardsons first. So the point I'm making is, outside of a Pat Mahomes, who doesn't need everything right to win it all?
See, it's funny you said that. I knew you were going to mention Patrick Mahomes, and you're right. But even the year where he lost his tackles, they made the Super Bowl because he is still a generational talent.
Right. And then he got murdered.
They got murdered. Destroyed.
So my whole point is what everybody says about Goff, it's applicable to basically every quarterback. Not named Tom Brady. So I'd love to hear from you on it. Do you believe you can win with Goff? Because I'm going to tell you, your general manager says the best is yet to come. So we're going to have the Goff discussion. And Rico's on the mend. Maybe we see him tomorrow.